Hi, everyone. It's Olivia Clyne here, current world number 13, tuning in from Edinburgh, Scotland. I've been back in the UK now since, I guess, since I arrived back from Black Ball, which I guess was now it seems like a while ago, over a month ago. But yeah, I've just been here, starting to get back into training. It's definitely been one of a weirder time. We were very lucky over in Scotland that we're still able to train pretty much as normally, which is I know that around the world it's not quite the same, but they put in a lot of different kind of restrictions and kind of a setup in place so that when this, kind of the inevitable relocking down of things happened, um, that we were kind of set up, all pro sports were set up here to be able to continue on as training. So at the moment, we're able to go into the courts and train as normal. We do have kind of set groups, so we're only allowed to train with kind of a handful of people. Um, but I mean, we still get to get on court every day, and it gives us a lot of a routine. I know my mother and father-in-law are up in Munlochy in the Highlands, and they're very much locked in right now, which is brutal for them. So we definitely feel that we're very privileged, and we know that a lot of other squash players as well aren't allowed to get on court right now, which I'm sure is brutal. Obviously, we had that extreme lockdown in in the start of March and into the summer, which was tough. But I like to think a little bit of what doesn't kill you makes you strong. So we're kind of trying to stick with it and kind of find our groove with things again, which is, it has its ups and downs for sure. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I found the first lockdown very hard. I did do like a kind of a running program. I decided that I was going to train for a half marathon and then do a half marathon. And I mean, I don't know if everyone knows much about Scotland, but obviously we're very northern. So I did, I did complete my training program and then decided that on like May the 15th or May the 16th that I was going to do my half marathon. Well, when you're doing a half marathon in Edinburgh at that time, well, I ran into snow. So yes, in May, doing my half marathon in the snow, which wasn't ideal, but I did get it done, which was a very nice thing. But yeah, I think that this kind of time it's definitely been interesting. I didn't take very well to training and kind of not knowing when the tournaments were going to start again. So I kind of had to be perfectly honest, kind of crappy training for 9 months. I had a lot of emotional stuff going on, and I think it was one of those times for me. I had actually not played squash for I think the longest, even when I'd kind of quit for a little bit. I hadn't taken that much time off of squash since I had started playing at the age of 5. That would have been the longest I had not played, and it was definitely a really surreal experience. And it took a while for me to kind of find my feet again. I definitely felt like probably way well into even the start of this, kind of our little, you know, impromptu season. It took me a while to kind of get into it, and I actually feel exponentially better now than I did at the start of the first lockdown, which I think it's one of those things where you kind of get lucky. I think some people maybe get burnt out, and it's about trying to stay motivated. And I actually felt like I had probably low end to zero motivation on the first lockdown. But kind of now, even though we're not quite sure when the tournaments are going to start coming in, I definitely am feeling like it's a good time to really push on and get some good training in. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing all of your questions, and yeah, send them on in. Oh, what is my favorite Burns poem? So that's a good question. It's very appropriate because it's Burns night here. Um, at my wedding, um, my sister-in-law recited our "My love is a red, red rose." So I think I'll have to go with that one just because I actually forced it into our wedding ceremony. We had another poem read as well, but nothing. Yeah, I have to say, our love is a red, red rose was that, or my love is a red, red rose rather, is probably my favorite Burns poem. So that's a good question. Like that for Burns night. Ooh, any motivation tips for this second lockdown? Yeah, like I said, I think it's one of those things where it, motivation is so personal. I think some people are very self-motivated, others are competition motivated. It's one of those things where I think it's so important that you find your what motivates you and what drives you for yourself. But I think really right now, especially when we don't have any end, there's no end date. There's no, even right now for us, a lot of our training is based on, tournament, and, this is our end date of training. So we're going into an event. So I think that for me anyway, I would say motivation lies right now in just really trying to get the most out of myself on a daily basis. I'm trying to make as many changes to my game and really start to develop different aspects of my game. And I think kind of wanting to really see more progress in a very process oriented kind of way makes it a lot more, you can have tangible progresses and a lot more of a, this is how things are working, and what am I doing and what am I trying to do, as opposed to very outcome based motivation. And I think that my favorite training sessions to do in the wintertime are anything pretty much indoors. My husband tries to get me to go out and train outdoors, and he'll be like, "Oh, let's go for a run outside." And I'm like, I literally feel my lungs filling with blood. I think I'm gonna die doing this. So anything indoors. I'm a huge treadmill nut. So getting on the treadmill, right, especially right now, where when we don't know what when the next tournament's going to be, we have been put more in aerobic training. So we want to see ourselves less like in the kind of that red zone that you hear so many people talking about, and actually more on the lactate threshold area, which is more towards increasing aerobic capacity, and basically really find your engine, like expanding capacity and really increasing your engine load, as opposed to just being able to deal with lactic acid coming through and kind of overwhelming you. So we're doing a lot more of longer sets of intervals with rest. So one of my favorite treadmill sessions that I'm doing right now is 3 minutes on, 1 minute rest. And I'm doing that at about 9 miles an hour. Well, anywhere between 9 miles an hour to 9.4 miles an hour. And then usually 8 to 10 sets of that. And that's a really good way of kind of really increasing capacity with a short rest, which obviously works your system, but you're not quite dying. I also do a great session on a Monday. I actually just came back from a session where we do a minute of stairs. So we're going up sets of stairs and down for a minute, straight into a minute of ghosting, and then a minute rest. And I'm sure you can do anything that's kind of longer sets. I think right now is a great way to build the base up, as opposed to, you don't want to do your quick short bursts right now. You want to kind of really build that aerobic base. Person I want to play, would love to play Dead or Alive. I've been very lucky and very privileged. Like, I've been playing squash for a very long time, and even when I was young, I got the opportunity to play with a lot of amazing pros. I used to live in New York City, and was based at the Heights Casino, and they had the Kara Weimuller come through every year. And also went to the Tournament of Champions when I was a kid. And I was always very privileged to be around a lot of squash. And my coach, Natalie Granger, has obviously been at the top of the game, and I've had to play her, which has been miserable because she's so talented and understands the game so well. But I think, I don't know. You know what? I think, you hear about Heather Mackay doing so many amazing things, and why wouldn't you want to experience kind of the best of, notoriously the best of history. So I think why not a shot against Heather Mackay? But I do train with my husband, so this is a funny, that is very interesting. I actually hadn't thought about that, that women players who are married to male players climb up the rankings quickly. Um, I do train a lot with Alan. Probably, actually, it's not a great thing. I'm extremely competitive. He's extremely competitive, and 9 times out of 10, we end up in some type of argument. Usually, I have to admit, usually on my side, because he either does something I don't like, or he beats me in a way that I find is like, essentially cheating, even though it's really not. But I think one of the biggest things is that especially for, if Alan, he's an extremely fit and extremely incredible athlete. He's a very hardworking athlete. He's extremely disciplined. And I definitely think that when we're around each other, he definitely brings out the best in my athlete. I think for, there are moments and times when you want that extra motivation, if we're talking about motivation. And when you have someone, he's never going to be like, oh yeah, sleep in, or don't do that session. He's always going to be like, hey, well, how much do you really want this? Like, what are you willing to do in order to, reach your dreams and go for your goals? And I think that that does make a difference. When we do get on court and we are cooperative, it's a very beneficial thing. Obviously, Alan plays at an extremely high pace, and compared to other ladies, he's obviously extremely physical. So we've actually had some really good experiences where I've been at a tournament, and my strength and conditioning coach will say, hey, well, why don't you play 3 games where we want Alan to go 100%, like at a like crazy blitz pace, so that you're kind of being stretched out as much as you can. And then when I go on and I play, another lady, it doesn't feel as physical, but in a very different way, as opposed to just kind of pure um, strength and speed. And I think that actually really does make a difference. But we drive each other crazy too, so it's like kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, good for the squash, but mentally debilitating at times. And I think Alan would say the exact same thing. So I've just started doing a lot more core with Georgia Adderley, because her and I have decided, Georgia's a training partner in Edinburgh, a very, very promising, no longer junior. She's getting old now. She's 20 years old, so she's no longer a junior, though I can't really talk considering I turned 28 on Saturday, so I'm feeling very old. But we have started developing, really adding in a lot of core work to our training. So after doing sessions, trying to get in at least 10 minutes of core activation afterwards, but then also pre-sessions, getting in at least 5 minutes there. So I would say actually on a daily basis, trying to do about 20 minutes of core work. I've found that has been really, it's a game changer. I think you become more stable and way more comfortable in your movements. I feel like when I'm hitting a ball, instead of, your body wanting to, obviously there's a lot of torque and a lot of force going on, and the more core work that you do, it's so much easier to kind of stay in your shot and not feel like you're getting knocked kind of off balance, and really being able to kind of complete your swing and move off of a ball has been, yeah. Plus, it's always nice to try and go for the 6-pack. We've definitely been trying to clean up our diets and stuff as well. I've never been the most disciplined of people when it comes to that, but I kind of made a decision this year that I wanted to really make a push towards really becoming a complete athlete. I think in general, I've always kind of worked hard on my, on court and stuff. And obviously I can put in physical work, but my discipline's kind of always lacked in things like nutrition and things like doing core, even when I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do an extra 20 minutes a day, or I don't know if I want to go and have to do another yoga session, or am I waking up early to do my mobility work? Those are things that have kind of let me down in the past. And obviously when you're talking about like little things that make a difference, at, towards the top of the game, and wanting to really maximize, what time I have left, which just sounds so morbid. And I'm really not, I don't really think like that. But at the same time, you can't not think about it, like obviously I have, um, you know, predecessors, and also even kind of my peers that are starting to make different life changes and things like that. And you start kind of thinking about your future, and also, how much time you have left doing this. And I kind of made a decision, um, at the kind of the end of last year and the start of this year, that I really wanted to make a push for, um, going for this full time, and saying, you know what, like, uh, I'm gonna really go all in, and not leave a stone unturned, and kind of commit to this growth. And my core regime is a part of that growth, so I will keep doing that. Ooh, I would love to go to Panama. I have had some great experiences down in Central and in South America. Um, Last year I was in Lima, Peru for the Pan American Games, which obviously is South America, but that was incredible. I had one of my best results ever down in Florida Blanca, Colombia, which was amazing. I've been to Guatemala. There's definitely a lot of places that I haven't been to, in especially in Central America, but I 100% would love to. One Anytime, any place. I found that, really, I felt so welcome every place I've gone, and I've gone to some really kind of random places. I mean, I last in the last couple of months, I found myself in Pakistan, which was obviously a very different experience, and not anywhere I had ever been before, but I felt extremely welcomed. And I really feel like, when it comes to squash, we really are a small community, but a small global community. And so it actually creates more of a family dynamic that I think that's what makes squash so special. So even though it is a global sport, and there are so many, neat little areas of it, it is niche. So at the same time, it creates the ability to have relationships, and one-on-one relationships, that is, you just don't get that in tennis, you don't get that in other sports. You don't have the ability to really go out and, like, hey, we love this game that's kind of small, and people don't always have respect for us, or show us the respect that we deserve as a sport and as squash lovers. And I think that, yeah, 100%. I'd love to do more traveling, especially to Central America, and would love to find myself in Panama, for sure. Next steps for top 10. I mean, it's one of those things where it's so hard. Like, I think people talk about reaching the top 10, or you know it's so fine. It's so fine. Like, I think one of the biggest mindset shifts for me, like, I have a tendency to be really nitpicky, and be like, okay, well, it's this, ranking point, or this average that I have to get, which, yeah, is kind of the truth, right? Like, in order to be top 10 in the world, you have to beat people who are top 10 in the world, and on a regular basis, right? You can't join the club until you've beaten the club. But I think, honestly, I think it kind of comes down to this kind of giving myself over to the discipline of wanting to do it the right way, being really regimented in what I'm trying to learn, and really, once I get into those experiences where I find myself, had some great results in the start of last year, and some really good performances, playing Noor Sherbini and TOC, and finding myself, playing very well and in those tight positions. It's actually having the confidence to continue what you're doing. And I think that when you get into the positions where you're like, you're kind of on a brink, or you feel like, oh, I have a chance to, a big win, is there for me, and I want to take advantage of the opportunity. You don't rise. I kind of hate the saying, like, you rise to the occasion, and can you rise to an occasion? For me, it's like, no, you fall back to what you know and what your training is. So I think it's really getting a hold of my training to where I know that when I get to a position where I'm feeling some anxiety and my heart rate's at 209 when I'm playing, am I falling back to the right things? Because I know for a fact that in the past, I've always fallen back to kind of, can I steal this rally? Can I steal this game? And guess what? Like, you can't steal your way into being top 10 in the world. That doesn't that doesn't exist. It's a very much a, you know, chipping away, and like I said, it's going back to what you know, and what you know is always your training. So I think it's really wanting to develop the work in training to have that to call on when I'm in those big situations. Ooh, why do I feel that referees have a hard time detecting blocking, and what can be done about it? It's a very interesting thing, because I think all in all, I think people, um I do think that the game is really cleaned up so much, and I think, you know, b- squash is a very subtle sport, right? There's a lot of subtleties going on, whether it's from a certain movement style, a certain movement pattern, or different racket ability and style. It's a lot of subtleties, and I think that it's not that the referees don't see it. It's that sometimes it's extremely subtle, so it's difficult for anyone to see. Like, I know I've had moments where I felt like I'm being hard done by an opponent, and my coaches have been like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Like, you're totally fine, they're totally fine, and I'm like, no, like, they're doing this and they're doing that, because it so much of it is a feeling. And I think when you're playing, it's also, you feel it so heightened, compared to, say, someone watching it. That being said, obviously there's always going to be moments and times where I think two people can have extremely different movement patterns that don't mesh well. I think there are a lot of people who actually don't block, but they have a bad pattern that matches up with another person who has a certain pattern of movement. Like, that, styles matter. But I think PSA is doing a great job. I know the referees are, they have constant meetings, and they, during tournaments, they're always conversing with each other and having different clinics and conversations about trying to really kind of weed out things, trying to get things, on the right track, and very transparent. Obviously, it's subjective. Refereeing is subjective in general. We don't have, we have VAR, but we don't really have VAR. So I think that they're doing as much as they possibly can to eradicate any type of blocking. But again, it's like one of those things. Like, it's very subtle, and maybe it'll take a while to actually to kind of really eradicate that and get that out of there. Um, what do I do if a person is purposely blocking me and the referee does not realize it? I mean, usually I just pull my hair out, to be quite frank. I'm not usually Miss Calm, Cool, and Collected when it comes to those moments, but um, I will say this: if someone is able to block you, it usually means that you're not hitting it to the right area. I was always taught that. Like, if you're getting blocked out, or you feel like it means that you're hitting a ball to an area where they can physically stay onto it, right? Like, if I'm hitting bad length and it's landing in front of the short line, that's an area where someone can easily block, right? They can put up, stick their bums out and do it on purpose. For me, if I'm hitting balls to areas where they have to go all the way up and play a drop shot, or they have to go all the way back, it makes it very difficult to block. You can't really block like in the back of the court. You get punished for that. So I think for me, I try and really think about opening the court up to a different way. If I'm getting kind of stuck in a certain area, then it means that there has to be, a change and an adjustment of tactics. Most of the time, it's not a, you can just, what's the right word? I can't explain to the referee this is happening and them not see it and anything changes. So it has to be that either my balls have to get better, which 9 times out of 10, that's usually going to help massively, or I'm gonna, allow myself to lose and get frustrated by it. I mean, potentially that also is a potential happening. But honestly, I think one of the best ways to do it is use some time, use some height, lift a couple of cross courts out of there. If you feel like someone's on top of you, or you feel like you're not being able to get around them, do your best to keep that ball out of the middle of the court, out of a position where you're going to be punished. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things. Ooh. So everyone makes fun of me. I'm like a serial rewatcher. So I really struggle to just like start loads and loads of different shows. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been pretty Netflix crazed since the lockdown. I mean, I've been through like Bridgerton. What else did we watch? I don't know. Alan makes me watch some of the creepiest shows. I'm not a fan of like these like whodunit killer things, but I end up watching them and then I can't sleep for like 3 nights. So I have to rewatch something that has no killers or anything in it. So at the moment, I'm rewatching Gilmore Girls, which I feel very connected to the characters just because they're really super chatty. I'm super chatty. So that's what we're going with. But yeah, there are a lot of shows I like. I'm a huge fan of like old period pieces. So I'm talking Outlander, Poldark, Bridgerton, as I mentioned, was very good. A little saucy, a little racy. I don't know if everyone's looking for that in their lives. It's true. Favorite show on Netflix, 100% Last Kingdom. Last Kingdom, Uhtred, son of Uhtred, has my heart always and forever. No doubt in my mind. Uhtred, son of Uhtred. And if you know, that guy is fuego. I have been very lucky as it pertains to COVID. Affecting my life. Like obviously my livelihood has been extremely affected. Um, we're not really playing full time on tour. Um, we haven't been able to really get funded as well as we have been in the past, and it's meant that I've had to like give up an apartment in the U.S. and that, and it's definitely been hard, but I think I still feel very lucky. I've been very fortunate not to have lost any loved ones to COVID, which there's so many people that are suffering. And I think, I lost my best friend this summer. She had been fighting colon cancer for the last 3 years. And, I think that the loss of loved ones is obviously the ultimate price that anyone could pay during this time. And I don't wish that on anyone. And obviously a lot of people are suffering. And I think, although yeah, it's required adjustments and it's required leading a life, like I get to be here, I get to be alive. I have a loving family that I think we band together, and I have a wonderful husband, and all of these things. So I think, yeah, it's asked for adjustment, just like it's asked for adjustment from on everyone's part. I don't think anyone is unaffected. But I haven't had to pay the ultimate price of losing a loved one from it. So I think, in the grand scheme of things, I've been generally unaffected, compared to others. Yeah. Ooh, well, yeah. I mean, I would have loved to see the World Juniors go forth. I mean, I think I remember my first World Juniors back in 2007. They were in Hong Kong, and I love the way that the young U.S. women are coming through. Obviously, I'm very proud of our current U.S. senior team, which is totally killing it, doing amazing. But I would have loved to see Marina get to compete in the World Juniors this year. She's playing fantastic squash, and I know that right now she's started her first year at Harvard, so she's currently playing for the Crimson right now. But yeah, it would have been fantastic to get to watch her play and to see what she could have done. Honestly, I think she would have been up there with as a favorite. She plays, she plays a very mature game of squash for someone so young. I think she doesn't play desperately. And I don't mean to say that all juniors play desperately. Obviously, like there's tons of juniors who don't play desperately, but she plays a very thought out, very process oriented game. And I think that no doubt that she's going to do wondrous things. And yeah, I'm bummed for her that she doesn't get to go and try and win to try and get to go and win a world junior title, because obviously that's the, as a junior, that's your pinnacle. And obviously also with the British Junior Open canceled this year, it's been tough to get to show your stuff, and when you're a kid, although you have many years playing juniors, time goes so quickly, right? Like age groups go quickly, opportunities go quickly. You're kind of moving around, doing a lot of things, and it's a total bummer. I feel for honestly, I feel for every one of these kids who have been working and working and working. Like you, at the end of the day, you're giving a large part of your life to pursue sport, right? Like if you're competing at a World Juniors or if you're competing at a British Junior Open, you spend a lot of time on a squash court or doing things to help you play your best squash. And, I was actually talking about this with Alan this morning, so many juniors, myself included when I was a junior, train like they're professionals, like they've been doing this for a very long time, which is why I do think you see a correlation with successful juniors being successful seniors. That's not always the case. There are players who weren't as good juniors, but I mean, from that first World Juniors that I went to in 2007, I think every single one of the girls who have been in the top 12 in the last couple of years was at that World Juniors. In fact, I know for a fact they were, besides Nourel Sherbini, because she was like 5 years old at the time. So I really do. I feel for these kids for not getting to compete, because it really matters and it's important. They sacrifice a lot to go into and to live this, to kind of live this pre-pro lifestyle. Cool. My squash role model when I was younger, um, it was kind of an interesting thing. I loved Sarah Fitzgerald was a huge role model for me. But I also watched a lot of men's squash, probably more than women's squash, just because it was not always as accessible. Obviously, like once my family moved to the Heights Casino, I got to go and watch the Weimiller, which was a big deal. But I'd grown up watching the Tournament of Champions. Um, but there are kind of two players that I was obsessed with. I was obsessed with Jonathan Power when I was like really little, like literally obsessed. But then my two favorite players, I would say that I wanted to play the most like, were Lee Beachill and James Wolstrup. I loved watching them play. I actually had a copy of the English Open, I want to say from 2000. I don't know. My dad's gonna kick me because I'm gonna get the year wrong, but I would literally go and watch the video of them playing each other at the English Open, like year after, like session after session after session. We had like an elliptical in the house, and I would go and wake up in the morning when I was training when I was like 13 years old before school, and I would watch the same match over and over again. It was a very I loved watching James play, and I loved watching Lee. I think that because it's funny, they had two different styles, but I think that they both had a very much a kind of a gift with their racket head speeds. And I think obviously James on his accuracy, but Lee had this amazing deception, like this dummy hold that was just, oh, to die for. So I would watch those two a lot. But then as I got older, I think you kind of started to develop more, and I love watching Natalie Granger play. Obviously, I've been very lucky to get to play and be coached by her and played her and have been on every type of team with her and stuff. So I think also I looked up to her a lot, especially as I got to spend more and more time with her. But yeah, I think probably it was probably Sarah Fitz for watching ladies as I was growing up, and then the Lee and James are probably my squash idols who like I adored. Ah, on tensions and type of string, um, I think so. I mean, I'm like one of those people where I could pick up. I couldn't even tell you what what tension a racket was. Like some people like can string their own rackets. I mean, I don't know how to string a racket. So I kind of go back and forth. I like to pretend that I know anything about that type of stuff. So I'll be like, "Oh yeah, like I think I need a little bit more racket some more ball control. So I'll go a little tighter, which means going from like, 26 and a half or 27 to 28. And then, oh no, wait, I'm not getting enough power. Drop it down to 26 instead of 26 and a half or 27. Um, so I'm a loser when it comes to that type of stuff. But I would say I kind of go for a 26 and a half ish. And I steal a lot of Alan's Ashaway strings, which I like a lot. So that's it. I pretty much, yeah, I steal Alan's strings. He yells at me, he orders more strings, and then I end up with the blue Ashaway strings or the red Ashaway strings for now. So I dig those. But 26, you kind of get the best of both worlds. I would go for that. Ooh, who is my best friend on tour? It's one of those things. It's so funny. Like I was actually thinking that this could be a question earlier. So I was supposed to be prepared for this, but I'm not prepared whatsoever. Um, I've been very lucky to have made some really great friends on tour. People who I know I'll be connected with for the rest of my life. And I have wonderful teammates who we've spent lots of time together. But I would probably say like I had two like sisters on tour, and one of my sisters just gave just gave birth to a baby girl, and it's actually her birthday. So Fiona Moberly, if you're watching this, you're one of my sisters on tour. Um, and I have really felt blessed to become close with Salma Haney. She's a wonderful human being, and I think we connect on so many different levels. I think, who would have thunk that I would be a girl from New York City who has one of my best friends living in, Cairo, Egypt. Well, she's from Alex, but I feel very blessed that we're as close as we are. She was at my wedding. She flew over from Cairo to be with me when I got married, and spent the night talking me off of a ledge, and waking up at the ungodly hours when I was like, okay, we need to go for a walk outside, and the sun hadn't risen yet, and she's like, all right, we're going for a walk. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten along with tons of people. Nayla Gillis is a great friend. We have, again, like very similar senses of humor, and obviously the Sobey sisters. I've known them for so long, and we've spent so much time together. Holly Naughton was another player at my wedding who I get along with. But I think, at the end of the day, yes, obviously you're always going to have people that you're closer with and that you connect with. I personally love to connect with people not on a squash basis. I feel very, I like it to be about human to human. And but at the same time, because you are playing this small sport, there's a camaraderie to it. You're like a brothers in arms. Like every single person more or less has been through that same emotional roller coaster that you have. And I think that even if you're not best friends with everyone, that there's such a mutual respect because you've gone through the same things. Everyone's been like 3,000 miles away from home, lost first round in qualifying, has no hotel, and has basically no prize money, and is like, what am I doing with myself? And I think I tend to definitely like to be friends with the people who can laugh at themselves about it as opposed to taking themselves so seriously. But yeah, I think I've been very privileged with that. Oh geez, I can only listen to one song for the rest of my life. What is it and why? Hmm. That's very hard. I don't know if I could choose like one song. Like I'm a music buff. Um So when I was a kid, I literally would not be able to go and play a squash match unless I had listened to Jackson Brown's That Girl Could Sing. I actually like physically could not play squash without listening to it. So my dad would have to put it on in the car before I could play. Um, if you haven't heard that song, you're missing out. So listen to that song. But I would want to choose something that choose a song that has like a lot of different elements to it. I mean, I don't know. I'm struggling. Like I'm thinking Bowie. I'm thinking Beatles though. I'm thinking a lot of different options. There is one song, I will say this. There's one song that has been on my Spotify playlist, like my top Spotify songs for the last 5 years, that has been like in the top 5 the whole time. So I feel like it's kind of my favorite song, but I would not call it my favorite song, but it's like snuck in there. And it's Seasons by the Future Islands. So another fun song for you. But maybe Journey. I don't know. Maybe Journey. I was listening to Journey yeah, this afternoon during my session. So it's so hard. Music is the best. Like I love music. When it's not COVID time, I'm trying to go to concerts like as much as humanly possible. When we were living in New York, we lived right down the road from the Capitol Theater, which is like this old, vintage, amazing concert venue, like insane, like very vintage. Uh, these like velvet seats and stuff like that, and we would go down there, and it was just oh, it was incredible. Literally like down the road, a 5-minute walk from my apartment. So honestly, yeah, like, oh, that's a terrible question. I mean, I listen to so much music. But just for nostalgia purposes, we'll go for That Girl Could Sing by Jackson Brown. Best band I've seen live. Oh goodness, what a question. Oh man, oh man. So my first concert I ever went to was the Smashing Pumpkins uh, in New York City. That was incredible. But I've been like very blessed. Like I've gotten to see some crazy good bands. I'm a huge Smiths fan, so when I got to see Morrissey live, that was incredible. But the last couple of years, I've gotten to see some really cool bands. Um, what rings to my like the first one that kind of comes to mind is maybe Kings of Leon. My sister took me for my 24th birthday a couple of years ago, Madison Square Garden. They were incredible. I love Kings of Leon in general. But then Alan and I have been to some crazy concerts. Churches were incredible. Maggie Rogers is like she's a total boss. But honestly, this kind of it's not a small band, but this kind of indie band called Rainbow Kitten Surprise was probably one of the most electrifying concerts. We saw them down at the Cap, and I just can't even describe the environment. Like you felt their passion in your bones. Like, it's a small venue and it's like super intimate. So I just think, yeah, Rainbow Kitten Surprise was probably like my favorite concert. Yeah, incredible. Favorite holiday destination would have to be Hawaii. I've been to some pretty amazing places. Like Alan and I try and make it our mission to kind of go away once a year when the season's over, like a new place, an amazing place. We try and kind of go to different places so that we see more. But my favorite place that we've been to was Hawaii. It didn't hurt that Alan proposed to me there. However, actually, like even that was like kind of just like one nice part of the trip. We spent the whole time on Maui, and it was just so beautiful. I mean, honestly, I think if I was gonna run away and like no one, oh, where's Olivia? Like she's just kind of dropped off the face of the earth, I would be in Paia, Maui, just like watching pipeline and like doing yoga and eating acai bowls, happy as a clam. It was one of the most amazing trips ever. I think there's I don't think there's that many places in the world where you truly feel like completely like laid back and at ease, and so like involved in nature. I mean, literally you like turn and there's a volcano, and I mean, it's just a Maui. Highly recommend. Also a good Mai Tai. Everyone loves a Mai Tai. So you go for a nice couple of drinks. Ooh, funniest tour story. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure there's funny stories of me where people are like cringeworthy funny stories. Um, well, back back a couple of years ago in Florida Blanca in Colombia, like I have an extreme fear of cable cars. Like it's a very real fear. Like other people can attest to it. Like I actually am not afraid of heights, but like I'm very afraid of cable cars. It's a very niche fear. Um, but obviously, like we were having to take cable cars um like up to the venue because the glass court was on top of a mountain, next to the Santissimo, and we'd have to take these we'd have to take these cable cars. But so one day we're in the actually, you know what, let's nix this my fear, but one day in Colombia, here we go, I'm setting the scene. One day, Florida Blanca, I'm off to the quarterfinals up on the glass court. And there had been a big rainstorm down there, and it's very muddy. So to get onto the scary cable cars, you had to kind of go on this like muddy path. And yeah, so we're in this bus, and they're like, you know what? Like our bus can't go through. And I was like, I have to like get up there. I'm playing in like 40 minutes. I gotta get up like into one of the cable cars so I can basically have a panic attack and then go and play my match. They're like, it's not gonna happen. I was like, okay, well, can I just like walk on this muddy place? And I get off the bus and I start walking, and this police officer on a motorbike is like, hop on. And I'm like, okay. So I literally jump onto the back of this motorbike on this police officer with like my squash bag, which I think at the time I was just like using a random duffel bag. So I looked like basically a homeless person with my squash rackets on the back of this motorbike, this police motorbike, getting a ride to the lift up there. I was like, this only in Colombia. Like, does this happen? It was on it. Like, I honestly wish I could show you guys the like I have a picture from it. I was like, somebody take a picture. Like, I know obviously I'm playing in 30 minutes, but this had to be a picture had to be taken. So I do actually have a picture of me on back of a motorbike in Colombia on my way to my quarterfinal match, which I ended up winning. So maybe I just need to take more police escorts to get to my matches. Ooh, well, haggis or Big Mac. So I've been doing vegan January, and I've been pretty much I've been a veg. I've been practicing vegetarianism for kind of the last 5 or 6 months. So I'd actually probably say neither, but I do love haggis, and it's Burns night tonight. So Alan actually went to the grocery store, and we are going to be cooking some vegetarian haggis for me and real haggis for Alan. But I have to admit, like I do love haggis. I can't help myself. It's really terrible, but it's very good. Big Macs for me doesn't do the trick. Like if I'm gonna go for barbecue, I'm going Hoodoo Browns. I want like, something very like I want like barbecue. I want like this has to be in a smoker. You have to be committed. It has to be an art form to you. Like Big Macs, they don't do art. There's no art in a Big Mac. There's some art in haggis, but there ain't no art in a Big Mac. So haggis. What others? What other sports did I play is probably a better question. I definitely don't play any other sports anymore unless verbal volleyball with Alan counts as a sport, because that we actually probably could be close to being athletes at. Um, when I was a kid, I used to play baseball for the bull for the St. Francis League. Was like an all boys league, except for all of the boys in my third grade and fourth grade class all played for the Bullfrogs, and I was like, I want to play. So my dad would take me, and I was part of the Bullfrogs. So I used to play baseball for a while. I was actually not too bad at it. Drove the boys crazy. They hated me, but nothing's new there. I played also soccer in school, football, and I played some softball and ran some track and field. But I was pretty serious about my squash from when I was super young. So I think it was one of those kind of things that it became kind of an all-encompassing thing for me. But yeah, now I mean now I'm more of I watch a lot of football, some of it voluntary, some of it not so voluntary because Alan's always watching football. But yeah, I don't really I mean, I guess I technically run. I mean, I kind of am a runner, a bit of a runner, and I do yoga. But yeah, not really any other kind of sports. I love watching gymnastics. I would totally do gymnastics if I could, if I wasn't gonna like break my neck, which I am a klutz, so I probably would break at least something. But yeah, no, I don't really play any sports. I do like to watch. I do enjoy a good watch. Good watch of St. Johnston, we'll say. Who is more competitive, me or Alan? Probably me. It's one of those things. It's such a fine line because uh, I'm like an aggressive competitive. Alan's like a sneaky, like gets underneath your skin, knows how to wind you up competitive. Whereas I'm just like, I'm better than you. And Alan will argue this, obviously, until to no avail, really. But I would say that I'm probably the most competitive. Like I get over my losses quicker. So like if if I end up losing, I don't hold on to it. I kind of let go of it. Whereas like Alan definitely holds on to his if he loses, or if he loses to me in something, like he'll hold on to that. But for me, I think I'm probably the most competitive. Like I find that I have to be the best or like in charge of pretty much everything, which is it's something I don't like about myself. I even find that when I'm doing like something like yoga, I always want to be doing like the biggest expression, or I want to be doing like the most complex thing that, you know, I don't know, we were actually talking about this today. It's like, is it is it a coincidence that people who are professional athletes are kind of obsessive compulsive? Because we were saying also, like, if someone's really good at their job, there tends to be a little bit of an obsessive compulsive you know element to it that I think uh kind of feeds, you know it feeds. It's not a perfectionist thing, it's just more of like a, you always are trying to get better and do something better. And I think no matter what, it kind of seeps in. Like, that being said, I don't think it's necessary to, throw a tantrum after you lose a game of chess, which I am known to do sometimes. But yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been great answering all of your questions, and I hope everyone's keeping safe and keeping healthy during this time. Feel free to reach out on any of the social media platforms if you have any other questions, or you just want a chin wag, or don't ask for any chess games, any virtual chess games. But otherwise, I'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.